Hello, Nikushin here. Today I want to split this ocean in half. Wait, really? Why would I do that? Split this ocean in half. Okay, that's already weird enough, and on top of that, isn't the whole intro way too much scripted? Well, you might think that it is, but right now I'm talking completely freely, so there must be at least some... Oh, okay, never mind. Where was I? Oh yes, splitting the sea. You might have already guessed it. There is an ocean monument right in the path where I want to split the sea. You can see its size and its place on the shore here if you look at the two scaffolding towers here on the left and on the right. And the direction I'm flying at, there will be flying machines who fly the whole way and drain out the water. This however means that I have to get rid of all the blocks that are within the way of the flying machines, and underwater at that, including the ocean monument. You recognize that I'm still flying? Yep, this is all the way that I want to have drained. This project definitely will not be finished within one episode, but I want to make a start today. And talking about starting, why not start with finishing off all the Elder Guardians that are in the ocean monument? And we will just jump right into it, but let me tell you, this here, this beach, yep, you have guessed it, this will be the finishing line for my flying machines. Yay! And one TNT, and one sand on top, and one redstone block next to it. And we wait for a second. Well, this is awkward now. Is that sandstone? Oh god, oh my... Oh. One TNT here, and one sand on top of it. And with that I mean real sand. Now it looks much better than before. Yep, it's that easy. So one wing is right here. That means we should be able to just get another hole here. I think that should be the place where the other guardian is. Yeah, looks good. Yes, there he is. Why am I stuck? Hello? What's happening here? Got him! Ah yes, the sea from the intro. Grand, majestic and untouched. Except that the shore is quite demolished by now. Yep, I have started digging out a bit of stone and some of the dirt. I'm 5 hours in the grind now. The place on the right hand side, the plateau here, that is the place where I want to build the flying machines later on, and I intentionally left the stone because I thought that a platform for building them would be quite nice. However, the place on the left hand side, this was just dug down because of the diagonal nature of the shore here. The water was starting there and I don't want anything obstructing my flying machines, because they wouldn't work if they would be obstructed. And so I have to dig down all of these down to Y level 40. This is around the height that is right there, so I'm not done yet. And you may ask now, Nikushin, why did you just stop? Why didn't you finish the digging job? The answer is quite simple. If we look into my toolbox, then we quickly realize that all my pickaxes, all my tools, they're all worn down. And while in the past I used my cave spider spawner to mend them, by now I think I need an upgrade, and that would be an enderman farm. However, for building an enderman farm I want a special kind of block, and that is the crimson stem variant in the Nether. However, grinding them away now is not a solution for me. Oh, pork shop. Instead, I think a new farm would be a good idea. While I could have used one of my old Ghast Chamber designs, here is a new one. And while it may look a bit complicated, it's actually not too hard to understand. Everything begins with the observer that is right there, that detects the fireball and sends a signal through the rails here. The signal is being sent up to the wall of pistons that is over there, and they trigger once, pushing out the existing blocks into the fireball. And then, with a bit of delay, we activate this line of powered rails that is below here, and that is detected by the observer twice, once for activating and once for deactivating the powered rails, and that quickly activates this line of redstone here, making all this terracotta here being powered, including the one where the piston is adjacent to. And that piston is now pushing out these 3 slime blocks, and this is a part of a flying machine. So these 3 observers triggering these 3 pistons on top, and also that one below. And that now completes the cycle, because then that gets the 2 slime blocks and the 1 piston that is left behind 1 block further. So to make it short, when a fireball comes, then this piston here triggers once, and then the flying machine triggers twice, sending new blocks to the pistons that are on top. Very easy, like I said. When the flying machine has made it to the end, we immediately want to have it sent back to the beginning. And we do that by having a clock here that is being activated, that activates the glazed terracotta again, and when the flying machine is back, then we send this redstone block back, disabling the clock, and we are back at the initial state. While we are in auto reset mode, we also block this repeater here, so if a new fireball would come, the signal wouldn't go through, because right now we couldn't make any use of it anyways. What is left now is to supply the flying machine with the crimson stem blocks, but for making the mechanics for that, let's first build the actual crimson stem block farm. Because I forgot my crimson nylium at home, for now we instead use warp nylium, and we have 2 repeaters, one going directly into the nylium and one shortly above. An observer clock behind the dispensers powers the node block that is on top, and the dispenser below is quasi-powered. The dispenser that is right at the nylium, however, is not powered at all right now, which is correct. You can also already place a piston here, that is there to destroy all the foliage that is not a fungus. And since we don't want to power the piston and the dispenser that is below too often, we take just a few of the signals out of this clock, but now we need to shorten it again. So with this piston and this block, we shorten this pulse so that the piston can trigger very fast, which is also quite important. And we send this short pulse into this node block. An observer will detect the changes in the node block, and that sends its signal one time around here, right back to the machine, where we now have a block here, which can now trigger this line of redstone. Which is not exactly right, we want to have a block here, so this is the cross shape, which now triggers the dispenser that is below, and the piston right here. It may seem to be a bit convoluted around this area, but we actually do all this because we want to now add a redstone comparator that checks the contents of this dispenser here by having a block right here and the comparator directly from the block going out in this direction. We then proceed to add a sticky piston that goes down to the node block. No, it doesn't. We then proceed with a block here that powers the sticky piston, which would now be able to get up the observer here, which would break the line to the pistons. One repeater and one block of redstone. This will make sure that this comparator will only be powered when this dispenser is entirely filled up with bone meal. Like this. Now you can see that the piston is working again, so if the dispenser would not be full, then this line here would be obstructed and the piston couldn't fire anymore. And now I can tell you how the farm actually works, which is quite a nice information, I guess. This dispenser here is 100% full. We have this piston here triggering and also the dispenser that is below, and if it's not, then it stops immediately. What happens now is that if we also have bone meal in this dispenser, we generate foliage and that is being destroyed until we may eventually get one of the foliage that we want to have, this one. So as you have seen, as soon as we had a mushroom being grown, the dispenser used some of its bone meal and immediately stopped the piston from firing because we want to make the mushroom grow instead of being destroyed by the piston. Now, right now the hoppers here are empty, but as soon as we have bone meal inside here, the dispenser is being filled up again, making the piston reactivate and the machine continues to grow more of the trees. To push out the rest of the blocks, we add more pistons to the already existing one, and a comparator right here that can detect if a tree has grown. And it does that by detecting the dispenser content whenever a block would be here, namely the stem of the trees that we grow. Now we can continue however we want. In my case, I added a piston here and one over here, and there is a block in between that now can be pushed out, and whenever it is pushed out, then this redstone line connects. That will now trigger all the pistons that are right here by using a glass tower. Be sure to add one final glass right here, because if it's not glass, then there will be a tree that eventually grows, cutting off the redstone power, and the piston on top would not trigger anymore. So a glass block right here it is. As you can see, the farm is triggered, the block has moved, and all the pistons here are being extended. We have that as a security measurement, so if we have another system that now makes a block stream out of the blocks, we have this farm disabled until the block stream is being established. More to that later. Let's just quickly set this back again, and we can see how the farm continues with a new layer. A couple of seconds ago, we used a lever to push the iron block back. Now this task is taken over by this, how do I call this? Vertical to horizontal block stream pusher. Forget it, let's just call it Dave. So what happens is that the tree is pushed into Dave, which is followed by a redstone signal, which goes through Dave from top to bottom. And when the signal reaches the bottom of Dave, it gets forwarded to the piston that can re-enable the tree farm so that a new tree can grow. We do that to make sure that no further tree can be pushed into Dave while there is a tree still being processed. But what happens now with the blocks that Dave put together so nicely? They are being pushed forward to the machine you have already seen. The blocks are pushed right under the ceiling of pistons, and when the flying machine makes it back, the pistons trigger, which basically reloads the magazine of the flying machine. It basically is a buffer that can fill up until the flying machine makes it back. By the way, on the returning trip of the flying machine, Dave gets disabled, so even if a tree is pushed into Dave, he won't process it. That is to make sure that the stem blocks won't be pushed in the wrong timing, namely into an extended piston, which would in turn break the whole farm. And while this might make the farm a little bit worse in terms of efficiency, it was the easiest solution, and I'm a lazy guy, so I always take the easiest solution. Talking about easy solutions, it took me well over an hour to add this contraption here right below the farm, and that is to change the nylium between the crimson nylium and the warp nylium. With a push of the button, we pull down the nylium block that is within the farm, we push a block on top of it, and then eventually the nylium block gets converted into a netherrack block. Then the netherrack block gets pushed back into the farm, and now what happened meanwhile is that these two nylium blocks, they switched positions, so only one of the two is directly adjacent to our netherrack block. That determines the type of nylium block that the netherrack block gets converted into next. So I basically initialized the change from the crimson to the warped stems, but that's okay, because if we look right here, we now have enough of crimson stems, well over a shulker box that is. It should be absolutely enough for the ender that I wanted to build initially. Don't know how it's about you. I hope you can still remember the initial plan that I had, because at least for me it had been quite some time since then. And that's how I got myself an ender. Yep, I just built it. What else did you expect? Honestly, I hate this farm because it's so ridiculously loud. Come on, be silent. Okay, this is the weirdest thing after all. They're all away, but I can still hear their screaming. I can still hear it. Ah, much better. Anyways, as you may have already noticed, the head of the Enderman is actually the wrong way around if you look from the top, but from the bottom, it's the right direction. The walkway here is plastered with 2 layers of carpet. This is the only possibility to stop the Enderman from teleporting around you. Also, if you look at the ceiling, the same trick is applied here. So even if you smack up the Enderman, even if you don't kill them with one shot, they cannot teleport out and attack you. Besides of that, I have added this little platform here. This is for placing my shulker boxes. By the way, if they would be on the open here, then Enderman could also spawn on top of that. But right here it is perfectly safe. And right next to it there is a little minecart station. So if we just take this box here, full with now repaired pickaxes, and jump into the minecart, we can go back to the mainland. And now I have an elytra, but I find it so nice to just lean myself back, even if it takes a bit longer than flying with an elytra, just chilling out for a couple of seconds. By the way, this there is the way down to the farm, and this here is the way back to the portal, and it goes right below the end island. I don't have to do anything. You know what? Why am I moving my mouse? I don't have to move my mouse. I can just enjoy the little second here. Everything works by itself. I get ejected in a bubble elevator. I get up the bubble elevator. And then I'm back on the top, where I have a little platform. If I would now look accidentally at an Enderman, I can kill it from here. Can it actually teleport right here? I don't care. Anyways, here is the portal to get back into the overworld. It needs a bit of cleanup, honestly, but this is something for another day. I mean, as long as I can access it, no problem. Fittingly, we're right back where we began. Sand beach biome. Is that actually a sand beach biome? Yeah, it's a beach. Okay. Yeah, I guess we can now continue digging. Guys, think this was a bad idea. Know how many hours I have dug stone by now? And honestly, I don't know it myself either, but it was too long. Oh, Trent? Come on. Nope. Sadly not. Doesn't even matter how many hours I have mined. Because, let's say it was 2 hours. Honestly, it was between, I don't know, 5 and 10 hours, so don't think too much about the 2 hours. But let's stick with the 2 hours, shall we? In the hypothetical 2 hours, I have managed to go from there, from the shore, to there. You can see the wall right here. And this is not a lot of space that I have dug away compared to the many amount of space that I have left to dig out. Whew, this is hard. And anyways, I will continue digging a little longer, and I will just continue digging until the next episode drops. And based on the amount of progress that I have made until then, we will see how we will continue with this project. Until then, have a good time and see you soon. Bye.